The Ferengi warships unleashed devastating plasma beams onto Earth's cities, instantly vaporizing millions. But the humans wouldn't go down without one hell of a fight. Sirefather Zog sneered at the blue-green world filling his view screen, eager to crush its primitive inhabitants and strip the planet bare. The Ferengi Imperial fleet, 1,000 strong, hung in space above humanity's homeworld, poised to conquer. On Earth, pandemonium reigned as the alien fleet's arrival sent shockwaves across the globe. Christian James, a maverick aerospace engineer, had detected their approach days earlier using his secret deep space radar array. He frantically warned world leaders of the looming threat. Nations hastily banded together, assembling a ragtag defense force. Christian advised them as best he could. But the Ferengi's advanced ships and weapons made Earth's defenses look like toys. Sirefather Zog hailed humanity's leaders, his alien visage appearing on screens worldwide. "Surrender or be annihilated," he demanded. Debates raged. Capitulate to spare lives or defy the invaders. Christian implored humanity to resist, revealing his ace in the hole, experimental space fighters armed with powerful new weapons he'd secretly developed. They just might even the odds against the Ferengi. Left with no choice, Earth's forces launched a last-ditch counterattack as Ferengi ships bombarded major population centers from orbit. Christian led his small squadron of prototype fighters to meet the alien armada head-on in the skies above Earth. The battle was brutal, Earth's forces hopelessly outmatched and taking heavy casualties. But Christian's unorthodox tactics and the shocking punch of his cutting-edge weapons caught the Ferengi off guard. The human fighters actually destroyed several alien capital ships, forcing the Ferengi to pull back and regroup in disarray. Sirefather Zog raged aboard his flagship, stunned that such primitive beings were mounting fierce resistance. He must crush their defiance swiftly to avoid humiliation and uphold the Empire's ironclad reputation. As scorched wreckage rained down and smoke billowed from Earth's ruined cities, the fate of humanity itself hung by a thread. Only Christian and his brave fighter pilots standing between Earth and utter subjugation to merciless alien overlords. This fight was far from over. As the brutal space battle raged on, Christian gritted his teeth, his hands flying over the controls of his prototype fighter. The Ferengi were getting wise to his moves now. Sirefather Zog's ugly mug flashed onto his comm screen. The alien's eyes narrowed with vengeful fury as he barked orders in his guttural language. Suddenly, a squadron of sleek Ferengi warships broke away from the main fight, zeroing in on Christian's position. He juked and jinked, narrowly evading the searing beams of their weapons. But his wingmen weren't so lucky. 3 of them vanished in blossoming fireballs as the ruthless aliens blasted them to atoms. Christian pounded a fist against the weapon controls in frustration. At this rate, they'd be space dust in minutes. Then it hit him, a crazy, desperate plan, one that just might turn the tide. He needed to get aboard one of those Ferengi ships. "Raven, you read me?" Christian shouted into the comm. "Barely," Jake Raven Sullivan's voice crackled back, infused with static. "We're getting hammered out here." "I've got an idea." Christian outlined his insane scheme to his best friend and ace wingman. "I'm going to need you and the others to keep these bastards busy." There was a beat of silence. Then Raven whooped. "You got it, boss. We'll put on a little air show for our smelly friends. Just don't get your ass killed over there." Christian allowed himself a tight grin before switching to a secure channel. "Spartan, Osiris, you there?" Affirmative. The clipped tones of the Spec Ops team leaders sounded in Christian's ear. He'd handpicked them for this mission, the meanest, toughest, most ice-cold soldiers humanity had to offer. "Gear up and meet me in the hangar bay in 5. We're going on a little boarding action." Christian could almost hear them loading weapons. Soon, they were piled into the cloaked insertion shuttle, huddled amidst racks of guns and explosives. Christian guided the craft out of the launch bay, heading straight for the pulsing heart of the Ferengi fleet. "Let's hope your boy can keep him busy," Spartan muttered. As if on cue, Raven's fighters screamed past, a host of Ferengi ships in hot pursuit. The aliens were so intent on vaporizing the impudent human that they never noticed the shadowy shape ghosting up alongside Sire Father Zog's own command ship. Christian's fingers danced across the controls, and there was a dull clunk as the shuttle latched onto the alien ship's hull. "Knock, knock, you oversized space goblins," he murmured. Aboard the command ship, warning klaxons wailed as the humans sliced through the airlock. Christian bounded onto the deck, assault rifle up and tracking. The Spec Ops troopers fanned out behind him in perfect sync, moving like lethal shadows. Ferengi crew rushed to meet them, disruptor pistols spitting blue fire. The air filled with the staccato roar of human weapons and the shrieks of the dying. Moving with fluid precision, Christian took point, cutting down aliens left and right. Spartan and Osiris were right behind, systematically neutralizing resistance with the ruthless efficiency of born killers. They made it to a computer terminal. Christian jacked in his modded datapad, his fingers flying. "Cover me!" Weapons fire stitched the bulkheads around him as the soldiers held off the Ferengi reinforcements. Christian hunched over the terminal, lost in a world of scrolling Ferengi code. There was a hum, and the ship lights flickered. "Got it!" Christian crowed, teeth bared in triumph. "Their weapons and shields are down. Let's finish this." They blasted their way to the bridge, leaving a trail of mangled Ferengi in their wake. The bridge doors exploded inward in a shower of sparks. Sire Father Zog and his officers spun to face the raiders, eyes comically wide. Some went for weapons. They died first. In less than a minute, the once proud Ferengi warlord was on his knees, Christian's rifle muzzle jammed under his misshapen chin. "Call off your attack dogs," Christian growled. "Now!" Zog hesitated, hate burning in his eyes. Christian leaned closer. "Do it, or I redecorate this nice bridge with your ugly gray brains." The Ferengi touched a panel with a trembling finger and barked a command. His image flickered onto screens across the fleet. "This is Sire Father Zog. The humans have seized the ship. All Ferengi warships are ordered to cease fire. I say again, cease fire." "Now stand down and prepare to surrender," Christian prompted. Zog repeated the order. "They'd rather die than yield to a human," Zog spat as he cut the transmission. "Then I'll happily oblige them." Christian stood, keying his comm. "Raven, did you get all that?" "You're coming in loud and clear, you crazy son of a bitch." Raven's elated voice filled the bridge. "The Ferengi are running around like headless chickens out here. We're tearing them apart." Earthfighters swarmed the Ferengi fleet, hammering the suddenly sluggish alien ships. With the intel Christian was feeding them, human pilots zeroed in on weak points, crippling and destroying warship after warship. On the planet below, human troops rallied, surging forth to hunt down the invaders. Armed with knowledge stripped from the enemy flagship, Earth commanders deftly outmaneuvered the Ferengi, driving the aliens back. With victory in sight, Christian allowed himself a moment of weary satisfaction. Then he saw the treacherous glint in Zog's eye. The Ferengi lunged for a control panel. "For the Empire!" Warnings flared as a self-destruct sequence kicked in. The ship quaked, vital systems erupting. "Move!" Christian bellowed, already sprinting for the shuttle. The Spec Ops team fell back by twos, pouring fire into the onrushing Ferengi. The last man barely made it aboard before Christian punched the thrusters, blasting away from the doomed ship. The command vessel went up like a newborn sun, the shockwave battering the shuttle. "Christian, what's your status?" Raven's alarmed voice cut in as the human fleet regrouped, watching the Ferengi flagship burn. Christian watched grimly as escape pods flickered away from the disintegrating ship. Too few. Any elation he felt at their victory was tempered by the knowledge that many of his team hadn't made it off that ship. Their sacrifice had bought Earth precious time. Time they sorely needed, as the Ferengi revealed their last-ditch effort. Incensed by the loss of their commander, the most fanatical alien captains flung their ships into a berserk charge, weapons blazing with renewed fury. The battered human fleet fell back before the onslaught. They'd bought breathing room and hurt the enemy badly, but the war was just getting started. Grim-faced, Christian arrowed his shuttle towards the rallying Earth ships. "All wings, Form up on me, Raven ordered over the comm, the survivors falling into position around him. Christian, get your butt into a cockpit. Looks like these space roaches still need a boot up their ass. The weary purpose in Raven's voice mirrored Christian's own. They'd held the line this far, seen friends vaporized before their eyes, cities that had thrummed with billions of lives reduced to cinders. After all that, the thought of yielding was unacceptable. These alien bastards wanted a fight to the bitter end? Then that's exactly what humanity would give them. The dust settled on Earth's ravaged cities as humanity emerged victorious against the Ferengi onslaught. Christian James and Jake Raven Sullivan stood before a cheering crowd, medals gleaming on their chests. The newly minted heroes exchanged a weary glance, knowing the fight was far from finished. "To the saviors of Earth!" the crowd roared. Christian stepped up to the podium. "We won a battle, but the war's not done. Stay vigilant." His words proved prophetic. Within days, intelligence reports flooded in. Grainy images showed Ferengi ships regrouping, their numbers swelling as reinforcements arrived from the alien homeworld. In the war room, Christian pounded his fist on the table. "We can't let them regroup. We strike now, hit them where it hurts." He outlined his audacious plan. Using reverse-engineered Ferengi tech, they'd launch a preemptive assault on the aliens' production facilities. It was a massive gamble, but the only way to end the threat for good. Weeks later, Christian stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship, staring into the inky void of space. Behind him, humanity's remaining ships fell into formation, a ragtag armada dwarfed by the Ferengi war machine. "All ships go dark," Christian ordered. "Radio silence from here on out." They crept through enemy territory, nerves stretched to breaking point. Raven's voice crackled over the comm. "Ferengi patrol, 2 o'clock. Christian watched the alien ships pass by, oblivious. His gambit paid off, the stealth systems held. They reached the outer defenses of the Ferengi homeworld. Christian nodded to his tech team. "Light 'em up." Lines of code scrolled across screens as the hackers unleashed their virus. Ferengi defense platforms went dark, their weapons falling silent. "All ships, punch it," Christian barked. Earth's fleet surged forward, catching the Ferengi flat-footed. Raven led the fighter squadrons, their nimble craft weaving between towering orbital shipyards. "Fox 2!" Raven whooped as his missiles found their mark. A Ferengi dry dock erupted in flames. The element of surprise wouldn't last. Ferengi ships poured from hangars like angry hornets. Christian's voice rang out, cool and steady. "Bravo wing, peel off and hit that weapons factory. Delta, cover their 6. For days, the battle raged across the Ferengi home system. Earth's forces struck hard and faded away, only to reappear elsewhere. Christian's tactical genius shone as he directed the ebb and flow of combat. But the Ferengi fought back with mounting fury. Their numbers seemed endless, waves of ships throwing themselves at the human fleet. Christian's flagship rocked as a plasma beam grazed its hull. "Status report." "Shields at 30%, sir. We can't take much more of this." He gritted his teeth. They'd hurt the Ferengi bad, but victory hung by a thread. That's when he saw them, a massive flotilla of warships bearing down on their position. The elite Imperial Guard, Zog's finest. "All ships, form up on me," Christian ordered. "Looks like we've got one last dance." The battered human fleet turned to face the oncoming Ferengi armada. This was it, the decisive moment that would determine the fate of 2 civilizations. The battered human fleet turned to face the oncoming Ferengi armada. Christian's eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. The Imperial Guard ships bristled with weaponry, their shields glowing with an otherworldly energy. "All ships, focus fire on the lead vessel," Christian ordered. "Raven, keep those fighters off our backs." "You got it, boss." Jake's voice crackled over the comm. His fighter squadrons swooped and dove, harassing the Ferengi escorts. Human capital ships unleashed a barrage of fire, but the Imperial Guard's defenses held firm. Christian cursed as he saw the interdiction fields flicker to life, trapping them in place. "We're pinned down," his tactical officer reported. "Can't retreat or jump to warp." Christian's mind raced. They needed an edge, fast. His gaze fell on a disabled Ferengi shipyard drifting nearby. I've got an idea. Spartan, Osiris, gear up. We're going on a little excursion. Minutes later, Christian led his strike team through the cavernous shipyard. They fought their way to the control center, dispatching Ferengi stragglers. Christian's fingers flew over alien controls, reprogramming repair drones. Load these with every scrap of explosives we've got, he ordered, and upload this virus to their systems. As the last drone was prepped, the deck shuddered. The Imperial Guard was closing in. Launch them now, Christian barked. A swarm of drones rocketed from the shipyard. Many were blasted apart, but enough made it through. They latched onto Ferengi hulls, detonating in fiery blooms. Ship after ship went dark as the virus spread. Interdiction fields are down, Christian's tactical officer reported. We've got an opening. The human fleet fell back, regrouping at the system's edge. Christian pored over sensor data from the explosions. Sir, these energy readings, they're using Vertelium isotope reactors, a scientist explained. A plan formed in Christian's mind. Plot a course through the asteroid field. We're going to play a little game of cat and mouse. The human ships weaved through tumbling space rocks, the enraged Ferengi in hot pursuit. Christian watched the rangefinder, waiting for the perfect moment. All ships, fire proton beams on my mark, he ordered. 3, 2, 1, fire! Lances of energy stabbed out, striking the Imperial Guard vessels with surgical precision. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the first reactor went critical. Chain reactions rippled through the Ferengi fleet. Ships were torn apart from within as their power cores destabilized. Only Zog's flagship escaped the carnage, jettisoning its reactor at the last second. Press the attack, Christian shouted. Human vessels swarmed the crippled Ferengi ships. Boarding parties deployed, fighting their way through alien corridors to sabotage vital systems. Through it all, Zog's battered flagship limped forward on auxiliary power. The Ferengi warlord's voice boomed over all frequencies. If I die, I'm taking you with me, human. The massive ship barreled towards Christian's vessel. Jake's voice cut in. Not today, you overgrown toad. Raven's fighters buzzed around Zog's ship like angry hornets, herding it into a kill zone. Human warships opened up from all sides, their combined firepower finally breaching the flagship's armor. Zog's ship vanished in a final, cataclysmic explosion. The remaining Imperial Guard vessels scattered or surrendered, their will to fight evaporating with their leader's demise. In the aftermath, Christian directed salvage operations across the Ferengi system. Captured shipyards hummed with activity as human technicians pored over alien technology. But even as they savored their victory, Christian knew the war was far from finished. Somewhere out in the vast reaches of space, other Ferengi factions were surely plotting their revenge. The smoldering wreckage of Zog's flagship drifted silently through space, surrounded by the debris of countless other destroyed vessels. Christian James stood on the bridge of the Earth's lead warship, his face etched with weariness and grief as he surveyed the aftermath of their hard-won victory. "Status report," he said, his voice hoarse from hours of shouting orders. "We've secured the Ferengi home system, sir," his tactical officer responded. "The remaining Imperial forces have either been neutralized or surrendered." Christian nodded, but the taste of victory was bitter. He turned to his communications officer. "Any word on Raven?" The young woman's eyes filled with tears as she shook her head. "I'm sorry, sir. His last transmission cut off during his attack run on Zog's ship. We found no trace of his fighter." Christian's shoulders sagged under the weight of loss. Jake Raven Sullivan had been more than just his wingman. He'd been his best friend, his brother in arms. Now he was gone, along with so many others who'd given their lives to secure this victory. Days later, Christian stood before a sea of somber faces. The memorial service for the fallen was held in a cavernous hangar bay, with holographic projections allowing the ceremony to be viewed across the fleet. As he stepped up to the podium, Christian's gaze fell on the rows of empty chairs, each bearing the name and photo of a lost comrade. "We stand here today," Christian began, his voice carrying across the silent crowd, "to honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice. They gave their lives so that Earth, so that all of humanity, might live free from Ferengi oppression." He paused, swallowing hard before continuing. "Among them was Jake Sullivan, callsign Raven, my friend, my brother, the bravest damn pilot I've ever known." Christian's voice broke, but he pushed on. Raven's final act was to lead the assault that crippled Zog's flagship. Without his courage, without the courage of every soul we've lost, we would not be standing here today. As the ceremony concluded, Christian watched the traditional missing man formation fly overhead, a lump forming in his throat as he imagined Raven at the helm of the absent craft. In the days that followed, Christian threw himself into the work of consolidating their hold on the Ferengi worlds. He pored over reports from human scouts, his brow furrowing as a disturbing picture emerged. "Sir," a young intelligence officer reported, "we're detecting significant movement of Ferengi ships and resources across multiple sectors. It appears several splinter factions are regrouping." Christian studied the holomap, watching as clusters of red dots coalesced in distant star systems. "They're not giving up," he muttered. Reports flooded in of hardline Ferengi warlords rallying their forces. The Kraxan regime, in particular, emerged as a focal point for Ferengi hatred, their broadcasts filled with vitriolic calls for vengeance against the humans who had dared to challenge Ferengi dominance. Realizing the scope of the threat, Christian requested an emergency meeting with Earth's leadership. He stood before the assembled generals and politicians, his face grim. "This victory is temporary," he stated bluntly. "The Ferengi are regrouping. They're angry, they're desperate, and they have nothing left to lose. We need to prepare for an even greater conflict." Christian laid out his recommendations, emphasizing the need to reverse engineer and mass-produce the advanced Ferengi technology they'd captured. As the meeting concluded, he turned to his chief science officer. "Doctor, I need you to prep our long-range stealth probes. We're going to scour every corner of this galaxy for potential allies. We can't face what's coming alone." Weeks passed as the probes ventured deeper into uncharted space. Christian was reviewing the latest scout reports when an alert chimed on his console. His eyes widened as he read the incoming transmission. "This is Christian James of Earth," he broadcast, hardly daring to hope. "To whom am I speaking?" A melodious, otherworldly voice responded. "Greetings, human Christian James. We are the Tulari. We have observed your struggles against the Ferengi scourge with great interest." The Tulari shared their knowledge of an ancient precursor artifact hidden in the treacherous Helian void. As Christian absorbed the implications, he knew this could be the key to saving humanity, if they could reach it in time. With iron will, Christian assembled a crew of Earth's finest for the perilous mission. As they prepared to depart, he addressed his team on the bridge of their heavily armored survey vessel. "What we're about to attempt is nothing short of insane," he said frankly. "The Helian void is a death trap of cosmic storms and gravitational anomalies. But on the other side of that hell is an artifact that could turn the tide of this war. The fate of Earth, of all humanity, rests on our success." The ship's engines hummed to life as Christian took his place in the command chair. Through the view screen, he could see the shimmering, chaotic energies of the Helian void. "All hands, brace for entry," he ordered. "Helm, take us in." The survey vessel plunged into the swirling maelstrom, leaving behind the relative safety of known space. As they ventured deeper into the cosmic graveyard, Christian knew that somewhere out there, Ferengi warfleets were gathering for their counterattack. It was a race against time, and the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.